with Conversations with Christians. Excited to be here again after about a 2 week break of videos. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Reliability of the Bible series, it's a three-parter. You can find it in the video section of this page, and also I've got two of the videos of the three so far uploaded to the conversationswithchristians.org website. I also want to say welcome to all of our new followers. We've got quite a few, and I've just been tremendously blessed by that over the past week or two. And I'm just really excited to hear from you guys, to get some feedback, to put out new videos. So, on that note, if you guys have a question about anything apologetics related or about what I would call Orthodox Christian doctrine, just biblical doctrine, feel free to shoot us an email, shoot us a message on this page or conversationswithchristians@gmail.com, and we will do our best to either address it in the email, comment, or video if it's a good topic for us to do that on. I'm really excited to talk about this one tonight because we're going to be talking about the age-old question: can God create a rock so big that he could not lift it? Can God create a rock so big that he couldn't lift it? Now, some of you might be rolling your eyes at this. You may already have an answer for it. But for a lot of us, this kind of a question kind of makes us shirk, because the challenge is that as an atheist might present this one, is that if God is omnipotent, then there shouldn't be anything he couldn't do. Or there shouldn't be anything, or he could do everything. So therefore, a logical challenge is brought up seemingly within this question. So I'm going to repeat it for the third time. Could God create a rock so big that he could not lift it? So there's a couple of presumptions that go into this question. The first one being the question presents a God. It presumes that God is limited by his creation. So that's our first assumption there. And it's a pretty major big one, because we know that God is not limited by his creation. And it's not reasonable to say there was a situation where he would be limited by his creation. So the first thing that you should do when somebody presents this question to you is you say, well, what God are you talking about? And they'll probably say, oh, well, the God of the Bible. Assuming that they're having this interaction with you as a Christian, that would be the topic. But you need to affirm that. So when they present that question, you say, well, the God of the Bible. They say the God of the Bible. You say, well, it's not a logical question for the God of the Bible, because the God of the Bible is not limited by his creation. So gravity is the laws of gravity are a thing of this world. This world is something that God created, and gravity does not usurp God's abilities. So we cannot say that God exists as a God who is limited by his own creation. So at the heart of it, you cannot answer. Therefore, it is a illogical question in regards to the God of the Bible. Now, if they insist that there could be a situation, well, then you say, well, then you're not talking about the God of the Bible, and it's that simple. It just presents this kind of a scare tactic, and you really won't hear this question. At least I have not heard this question presented by any prominent atheist in any kind of a formal debate setup, because it is not a logical question at its heart. It's just simply presented as one, as if it were logical, which makes us shirk. And we don't need to shirk from these questions. We just need to approach it critically, with a critical mind. We have God's word. God has spoken. He has revealed who he is through his word and through his son, Jesus Christ. And we can stand on those things confidently. This question has also been presented in a similar fashion in the question of, could God lie? Now, this is a little different question, but it's in the same category. So I've got a bit of an exchange here, and I want to talk about this because we're going to approach this question in the very same manner. So in this conversation between a Christian and an atheist, you would say, or the atheist would say, would challenge you, say, can God lie? Which we would say, no, right? I mean, of course not. They would respond, can't he do anything? You would say, yes, but he wouldn't want to lie. I mean, that's, as Christians, we can kind of see how we would go from A to B to C. So yeah, he wouldn't want to lie. And the atheist would challenge, well, could he if he wanted to? Which we would reply, well, he wouldn't want to. Now, this is an actual situation that's described in this text I'm reading. But they persisted, what if he wanted to? So if they continue to persist, what if God wanted to lie. Now, just like in the first question, when we approach it as we're creating a God that is limited by his creation. In this situation, we are creating a God, just within the pretense of the question, that whose character is different than that described in the Bible. So when we come back and say, well, he would not want to lie, is a 100% is 100% a valid response to that question, because we know God's character, and God's character is perfect. God is the standard of goodness. So we actually have a verse to back this one up. You're not going to find the question of can God create a rock so big that he can't lift it in the Bible, but we can answer it with the biblical context of who God is and who his creation is. So when we present the question of can God tell a lie, or would God lie, we can actually go to Hebrews chapter 6, verses 18. So this is when we're talking about God's promise of prosperity to Abraham. And in verse 18 it says, again, it's Abraham, Hebrews 6:18. So that by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie. Why is it impossible? Because it is not of his character. There is never a situation where God would want to lie. So any question that pushes it beyond that point is totally moot, and it misses the character of who God is, therefore discussing a different God. So these questions are simple questions, and they have simple answers. And you're not going to hear a lot of, I don't want to say credible atheists, but esteemed atheist debaters use these types of questions, because they are not logical questions in terms of the God of the Bible. Now, there are other questions that we're going to get to and answer in the coming weeks. For example, next week on Sunday, we're going to answer the question that you may have been presented to, somebody may have challenged you with, or you may have seen other Christians challenged with a similar question. That is, if God asked you to kill your child, would you? Wow. It sounds a big question. And it is a serious question. And there's a little bit more biblical context. Again, we're going to use biblical context to back this up. But we also have the story of Abraham and Isaac, and how God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. And what does that say about that question? So if God, and again, this question is just a preface for next week, if God asked you to kill your child, would you do it? This question presumes that God has the utmost authority, and that we recognize that authority in God. But the second part is that question is, would God ask us to kill our child? Now, we can't answer this question the similar way we've answered the first two questions tonight about the rock and then can God lie. But we have to take this one a step farther, because God did ask Abraham to do it. Now, I'm sure all of you know this story if you're a Christian already, if you grew up in the church. And of course, God stopped Abraham. He was simply testing his faith. And he did not go through with the sacrifice as God stopped him. But how do we respond to that question? How do we think critically? How do we think biblically? And how do we answer that question based on who we know God to be? So, short video tonight, no slides or anything like that. And once again, I appreciate all of you guys joining us, and all of our new followers. Please share our videos, or shoot us an email or message with any questions or potential future topics, and we would love to help you.